On Top Tips Wednesday, this is Smart Money.
Hello, I'm Jon Dee and you're watching Smart Money, the program that shows you how to reduce the operating costs of your business. Every week we take a close look at the companies that are improving their bottom line by being smarter in the way that they run their operations. And not only do we take a close look, we also get them to pass on their best money-saving tips as well. Over the next half hour, we'll be taking a look at how Qantas is saving fuel and using tri-generation power to reduce their energy bills. In our cross to London, Vincent Neate from KPMG will be giving tips on how to assess the true value of efficiency investments. And finally, on our panel, we'll be looking at the issue of energy productivity and how it could dramatically reduce energy bills for Australian businesses. But first, this is where the smart money was this week. A new report from the International Energy Agency says that Australians are being charged some of the cheapest solar PV prices in the world. As a result, Australia has gone from 10th to 8th position on the agency's list of top 10 global solar PV markets. The agency also reports that 40 gigawatts of solar PV capacity was installed during 2014. In total, the world has now installed 177 gigawatts of solar PV panels. Australia is set to get its first large-scale wind and solar hybrid energy park. In a major economic boost for North Queensland's Hughenden community, the Kennedy Energy Park plant will utilise both wind and solar power. Construction of the $140 million plant is expected to begin within 12 months. Tech giant Apple has announced that it will build 200 megawatts of solar power in China. It's also announced that it will work with its Chinese supply chain partners to develop 2 gigawatts of clean energy capacity. The company has just completed a 40-megawatt solar farm that makes its Chinese retail and admin operations carbon neutral. Qantas spent $3.9 billion on fuel in the last financial year. Reducing that fuel usage has major benefits to the Qantas bottom line, and it's good for the environment too. In the last 2 years alone, Qantas has cut its fuel use by 82 million litres. That's helped to save more than $136 million, and it's reduced their CO2 emissions by 210,000 tonnes. As a business, however, they're not just saving fuel. They've also managed to reduce a number of their operational impacts. I met up with Alan Milne at Qantas to find out how their sustainability push is saving money. Alan Milne, thanks for coming on Smart Money. Now, Qantas is very well known for its commitment to safety, but you're also getting known now for your sustainability initiatives. From a bottom line financial point of view, what's the argument for putting in place a sustainability plan?
John, it's very, very important. The investment community has told us very clearly that they expect to see not just a sustainability policy or strategy, but they want to see it embedded in the business in everything we do, especially in a carbon-intensive industry like we're in.
Now, Qantas, like many other airlines, uses a very, very large amount of fuel. It's a huge cost. How much are you spending on fuel every year and how much are you using?
So the last financial year, our fuel bill was just over $3.9 billion, and that equates to about 4.6 billion litres.
So you're spending a lot there. Now, I mean, if you look at this plane behind us now, this is one of your newer planes. How much more fuel efficient are these planes compared to your older planes?
Yeah, the technology in the aviation industry has accelerated over the last few years. Compared to maybe 40 years ago, these aeroplanes are 30% more fuel efficient. The new Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner that's coming to the Qantas International fleet will be 20% more efficient again.
So I guess when you're spending $3.9 billion on fuel and you can get a plane that reduces fuel use by 20%, you're talking some very big dollars with those new
Big dollars, absolutely. Yeah, our current fuel plan has us targeting around about a $25 million saving a year.
Now, you're putting in place an integrated fuel management plan. In plain English, what is that, and is it reducing your fuel bills?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to enable all the airlines under the Qantas umbrella to benefit from the experience that sits in each of the individual ones. So we're bringing it together. We'll be able to share cross-functional ideas and hopefully, and I'm pretty sure we will, improve our fuel efficiency.
Now, you're using a very large amount of fuel, which means you're putting out a lot of greenhouse emissions. For people watching now, how can they help you to reduce your carbon footprint?
Yeah, look, our carbon offset program is the largest airline program in the world. We currently have about 8% of our passengers will offset their flight. I think what's not known out there is how little that can actually cost. For example, a Sydney-Melbourne flight will cost you about $2.25 to offset your whole trip.
So that's a very small amount of money. Now, this plane here, it's on the ground, and most people don't think about it in terms of using fuel, but I understand that you've put in place some initiative that reduces fuel use on the ground. Can you explain that?
Sure, absolutely. When the aeroplane's on the ground and the main engines are shut down, there's a jet engine up in the tail that's running to provide electricity and air conditioning. Now that uses fuel. So we've got some ground-based infrastructure now where we can plug the power in from the ground, plug in air conditioning air, therefore we can shut down the APU. Now on an A380 like this, that saving is about $600 an hour, which doesn't seem a lot, but when you consider how many aeroplanes we have and how many sectors we're operating, that turns into big dollars.
Alan, this is the largest commercial tri-generation power system in Australia. For viewers who don't know what a tri-gen power system is, can you explain it?
Sure. It's basically just a really large diesel engine. These ones are powered by natural gas, driving a generator. The difference with a tri-gen plant is that we capture the heat that is generated by that combustion and used for both our air conditioning and cooling systems.
So I was going to say specifically then, how would Qantas use that?
So we're using this to power our corporate campus area, our hangars and some of our terminals in the Sydney facility as well.
So when you compare a system like this to traditional coal-fired power, how much more efficient is this?
Enormously more efficient. Coal-powered electrical generation is about 33% efficient. These machines are 80% efficient.
So from an emissions reduction standpoint, when you look at your tri-gen power systems, how much are you reducing your emissions by?
So just our footprint, it's around just under 24,000 tonnes of CO2 a year.
So that's pretty big.
It's a massive change.
Now, I understand that some of the power from this is going to power your electric forklifts, which previously you had forklifts that were using diesel and natural gas. How does that work?
So in our freight area now, we are using electric-powered forklifts. They plug in to recharge overnight from power generated by these plants.
Now, when it comes to vehicles, how many other vehicles are using just electricity?
So we're starting to expand. We've got a program that's been running for a couple of years now to try to get most of our ground handling equipment switched across to electrical power. So our baggage carts, our powered stands in the engineering area, etc.
Now, obviously that's going to reduce the pollution from diesel and natural gas in the workplace, but is it also reducing your running costs?
Oh, it certainly is. Not only are we not purchasing fuel for these machines anymore, but the operating costs and the servicing costs are far lower.
And why are the servicing costs lower?
So an electric vehicle has less moving parts than an internal combustion engine powered vehicle, so minimal servicing required and less to go wrong.
You've recently refurbished these 4 buildings. What kind of energy efficiency savings have you been able to generate?
So just for this corporate campus alone, we've reduced our bills by about 30%.
Well, that's very significant. Now, what about lighting?
Yeah, lighting's the area that we can really tackle. Both the natural light that you see here through the design that we've used.
This is great, isn't it? Because it's free of charge lighting.
Exactly right, and it's a beautiful daylight that we're standing in. We've also put through an LED replacement program for most of our light fittings. That can enable savings of up to 80% just for lighting alone. Combined with movement sensors that'll turn lights off when there's no one around in the area and turn them back on again. It makes for substantial savings.
Now, what have you done when it comes to water efficiency in this new setup?
So with the opportunity to refurbish the buildings, we've managed to replace all of our taps, all of our toilets, everything that's utilising water with low flow devices with the water saving capability that's out there today.
Now, when it comes to waste, you're trying to reduce the amount of waste that you send to landfill. What are you doing here at the campus and what are you doing in flight?
Yep, so the campus area here, we've got a very well designed recycling program. We separate organic waste, all our aluminium cans, etc., are all recycled out of this facility alone. We did World Environment Day this year. We announced our in-flight recycling program, which is the waste coming off the aeroplane is being separated out accordingly.
And for people who are just starting on this sustainability journey in their company, you've been at this for a while now. What advice would you give someone who's starting out?
So I think a decent sustainability strategy requires commitment from the top down. That's from the board and the CEO, both agreeing that this needs to be a part of everything we do. Building a strategy and putting it on the shelf is no good. It has to be lived every day. Every business decision we take needs to have some sort of sustainability filter put over it.
As you just saw, Qantas have been very proactive in the implementation of their sustainability plan. In looking at their operations, I found 3 key things that other businesses can implement. First up, with every flight, Qantas are saving a small amount of fuel, but added up over all their flights, they're saving millions of dollars. It's a great example of small savings adding up to a big financial win. Secondly, Qantas have moved to reduce their usage of energy and water. That's something that every business can do. And finally, they've put in place a power system that's saving them money. Many businesses may not be able to afford a tri-gen system like Qantas, but other power sources like solar can help to reduce your energy bills. After the break, we'll be crossing to London to talk about the true value of energy efficiency. And on our panel, we'll be looking at the savings that can be generated by improving energy productivity. Do stay with us. The professional services company KPMG are well known for the energy efficiency advice that they give to business clients around the world. In addition to showing companies the basic bottom line benefits of energy efficiency, they've also been working with clients to help them recognise the true value that arises from the implementation of energy efficiency upgrades. To discuss these issues, I'm joined from our London Stock Exchange studio by Vincent Neate, the Head of Sustainability Services at KPMG. Vincent, thanks for joining us. I'd like to start by asking you about energy bills. Before a company invests in energy efficiency upgrades, is it possible for them to find out why their energy bills are higher than they need to be?
Hello, John. That's a good question. I think the first starting point that people need to be thinking about is to do a proper energy audit. We've had examples where our clients have done this and have looked and found a building out of sync with the others. And what they discovered was that actually a meter that measured the evening use and the day use was powered up and wired up the wrong way round. So by switching that, they were immediately able to make a saving.
Now, is saving money the only consideration? Are there other matters that need to be considered when you put in place one of these plans?
No, absolutely, you're right. It's more than just saving money. Of course, the saving money is vitally important. But the other thing that's really important for our clients is being able to protect themselves from price volatility and also being able to protect themselves for continuity of supply. We have clients who have manufacturing processes entirely dependent upon a good, solid supply of electricity for 24-hour manufacturing. So they're very interested in protecting that.
Now, what kind of businesses, in your opinion, can particularly benefit from energy efficiency upgrades?
I think a starting point would be any business that has particularly low margins. We had one client where the energy bill was roughly equivalent to their profit every year. So if you're going to protect your EBITDA, if you're going to find a way to make that sustainable in the long run, over 10 years, they're going to have to find a way to pass that on to their customers or find a way to protect themselves from the price rises.
Now, you've been working with a lot of clients around the world on energy efficiency programs. What other advantages are there, do you think, from being more energy efficient?
Well, on top of the obvious money savings from being energy efficient, you do have these 2 advantages about protecting yourself from volatility and protecting your continuity of supply. But there's more to it than that. Over a period of time, we've seen clients increasingly move from saving money to being able to buy better, to being able to think about the way in which they generate. So it can also link to other aspects of their businesses. You've just been hearing from Qantas and the case study there, talking about the waste, the way that they use waste. We're seeing a lot of clients now who are looking to turn their waste into energy as part of their energy strategy. So it's taking what is a liability and turning it into a cost,
now,
an asset.
Now, when it comes to energy efficiency, you've spoken about the need for companies to consider true value. What do you mean by true value?
So by true value, what we mean is the long-term cost that we need to be thinking about when taking all the externalities into account for the business decisions that we make. Traditionally in business, we have made our decisions purely on the basis of financial return. With true value, what we are advocating is that businesses need to create a balance between the value of their financial return, the value of their social return, and the value of their environmental return, and to have those in balance. Because without that, they will not be able to create value in the long term.
And finally, in brief, how does true value apply when it comes to improving a company's energy efficiency?
So particularly in the context of energy efficiency, we would be looking to understand the long-term consequences of potentially entering into solar panels on roofing, or looking at the way in which a waste-to-energy plant could affect the bottom line. In terms of energy efficiency, it's about taking your strategy and calculating as many of the different implications of that strategy, both for you and for the society and environment in which you operate.
Vincent Neate, thank you so much for joining us from the London Stock Exchange. We appreciate your time.
Great pleasure.
Energy costs equate to about 10% of Australia's GDP. That's more than $110 billion a year. But that cost could be significantly reduced. Research indicates that energy productivity could be doubled by 2030 using currently available technologies and practices. The USA has already adopted a target to double its energy productivity by 2030. The question we're going to ask today is whether Australia could do the same. Joining me to discuss this are Jon Jutsen, the Chief Innovation Officer at Energex, and Bruce Precious, the Sustainability Manager at GPT Group. Jon, if I can start with you, you've been a long-term advocate for energy productivity. For people watching now who aren't familiar with the term, what does it mean?
We're talking about the total value you create by using energy. So, in fact, previous speakers today have talked about the range of different value that you can get from improving energy performance. So, at an economy level, we're talking about the total GDP that we can develop for the amount of energy we use. So, if we can double the amount of value we create, double the output for a unit of energy, obviously it'll improve the economy. And at a plant level, it would be the range of different improvements that you can gain, value that you can gain from improving the way you use your energy. So that might be cost reduction, it also might be improved reliability, and improved plant performance, maybe improved throughput.
Now, Bruce, GPT support energy productivity. Why do you support that?
Well, GPT worked out a while ago that it's just good for business. So there's a recognition there's a cost saving. We spend less on energy if we use it more efficiently, but it adds, and that in turn adds value to buildings. It improves the performance of buildings, improves the productivity of the people in the buildings because they're managed and cared for in a better way. Now that means that our customers, our tenants, they show a preference for energy efficient buildings. Our investors show a preference for energy efficient buildings. And more broadly, our community that we need to work with through our shopping centres and through our office buildings, they're supporting more efficient buildings. So it makes good business sense for us.
Now, Jon, why the urgency when it comes to energy productivity? What's the immediate benefit?
Well, we've got both a challenge and an opportunity, and that, as Prime Minister Turnbull would say, by seizing the new technologies that are available, we can substantially improve the economy. But I mean, we've got a threat as well, because our energy prices have dramatically increased over the last 7 to 10 years. We've now got Western European type energy prices. But at the same time, we've got low energy productivity. We get low amount of output per unit of energy that we use. So there's a real requirement now for competitiveness reasons, for us to improve our energy productivity, to improve the opportunities for growth and for jobs.
Now, Bruce, let's look at the real world on this one right now. GPT have done a lot on energy efficiency. How much money have you managed to save?
It's a frightening amount. It's many millions of dollars. So we have really robust data since 2005. So since our baseline year in 2005, we've reduced our energy consumption per square metre by 35%. In 2014 alone, that accounted for a $24 million saving on our energy bill. So it's big numbers.
Now, how did you go about putting that in place? I mean, that's a very, very big result, and you to be congratulated for that. How did you start the whole process? Key to
energy management is measurement. So one of our earliest projects was applying sub-metering through our buildings, so we could actually figure out where the energy was going. And since then, it's been better controls, training of our personnel, training of our contractor personnel, the maintenance guys that work on our lighting systems and air conditioning systems every day, as well as taking advantage of all of the great new technologies that are now in the market, whether that be LED lighting, better controls on air conditioning. They all contribute. There's lots of moving parts in a large building, and every one of those parts contributes to a better energy outcome.
Now, when it comes to energy, let's look at the energy itself. How efficient are we at generating energy?
Well, it's remarkable to understand that if you have a look at the amount of energy that's actually dug up, in the form of fossil fuels, and then the transformation of that energy through to an actual in-service that you get, like having cold beer or a comfortable house, only about 10 to 12% of that total energy that's utilised actually turns up as an end use. So we waste about 80 or 90% of all the energy that we dig up. So it's shocking the amount of waste, and there's enormous potential for improving.
Now, when it comes to energy-saving results, you've done really well, but what's next on your journey towards ultimate energy efficiency?
Ultimate energy efficiency, optimum energy efficiency. We haven't discovered what that is yet, because the technology keeps delivering us new opportunity every day. But it's not just technology that offers us new opportunity. It's the changes in markets. So the carbon price has come and gone, but we have energy saving schemes and white certificate schemes that incentivise energy consumers to make better use of their energy. As those schemes get traction in the market, we have the Emissions Reduction Fund in the market. Those schemes give us opportunity along the way to identify new projects, new processes. There's also a significant amount of vigilance needs to be applied. One of our best performing buildings, we made some changes to the controls. We had an upgrade to our air conditioning in that building. Overnight, its energy consumption doubled. So from one day to the next, its energy consumption can go back up to a crazy level.
Now, Jon, with regards to companies, they're obviously out there saving a lot of money. Final question, what advice would you give someone who's just starting out on energy efficiency?
I think the key thing is to understand what you consume. Most companies don't measure very well, and it makes it very hard to manage something you can't measure. So that's a starting point, but also to make sure that the total value proposition is evaluated. The business case has got to include all the potential benefits, and that's mentioned by previous speakers, and you'll see that there's a very strong proposition for many companies to save 10, 20, 30% of their energy consumption.
Gentlemen, Jon, Bruce, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jon.
Well, that was Smart Money for this week. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about tonight's topics, send me a question via Twitter or email me via info@jondeedotcom. I'm Jon Dee. See you next week.